Um, no, I'm not admin.
Oh,
Shit.
and you cannot send the presentation to someone.
Where's Sendel? Can you go grab Sendel? It's my. That's what I can't do, for sure. I can't. Can we get this on your on your laptop?
Cool. Yeah, we have time.
This is what I thought I. So I'm gonna need him to now log in his laptop for whatever. I just like this is a newer work laptop, and so I haven't had admin and IT go in and set up to do all my stuff.
Are you safe? I mean,
Yeah.
are you able to get it?
I can do everything. I can't share my screen. It's because it's a very like highly configured whatever, and my admin didn't set up Zoom to be able to enable to share on my laptop.
I was about to say that because if you have to share, you have to restart everything and have.
So as we see, so you want 15 minutes?
Yes.
So I will. Okay.
But I'm actually gonna have to get Sendel, my colleague, to share his screen because my Zoom is not allowing me to share my screen because I don't have an admin login, so I can't actually do it.
So where's your Zoom app?
I promise, like I just like have to have set up with.
You cannot share it.
I cannot share.
It's an office laptop. I know that.
Yeah.
That's okay. At least we have a backup. So
Okay.
At least have a backup. So we can do the Zoom meeting.
I need my work to like actually go in and allow me to share.
Yeah.
You have the presentation here.
Yeah, do the last one.
Just relax. Just do your meeting in.
And then I'll need to know what name that is in order to make that person a co-host.
Yes. So as soon as we enter with the name, let's just let.
Yeah, I do have Zoom.
Join the meeting. I'll let you do it.
873 78 87 51.
Just say the
So the passcode is 76 48 76 48 0. Join. Alright,
Just join. I just want to see that you can share your screen.
share the presentation.
no, sorry, he's basically have the screen share.
All right, you go ahead and try the share now. Yeah, well, that's going to be on.
Amazing.
All right.
So this is I don't
Right.
think you need to do this one. Just skip this. Okay, let me do it. Yeah, where is the speaker?
Yeah.
Yes.
No need for speaker. You should be on mute.
Yes.
1 second.
I just want to see my notes. I just want to see my notes.
Yeah.
This is not their page.
Yeah, you should just be sharing the app.
I just want to see my notes.
It's coming.
Ah,
You should be able to share the PowerPoint session. No, just in PowerPoint, you should be able to share it so that you can have your notes visible. But that's in
Can we
PowerPoint.
just
That's
go to
good.
the next slide? I just want to see my notes. No, in the share mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a clicker?
I think that's what this is.
Somehow it's in presentation.
Yeah, I think that's.
My notes? Where are my notes?
Go ahead and give this a try.
I am gonna use a mic.
Yeah. No. This is. I think this is your clicker. If you want to advance your slides, I think that's what this is for. So, but try this.
no, we don't need the whole screen. We only need the print because what we have done previously.
Yep. There you go.
So on this screen, it was visible everything.
All right.
It's there.
This, as far as I can tell, this should be working, unless he did that.
Oh, no, I just said.
I'm just making sure the clicker is on here. Okay.
The slideshow.
All right.
And presenter.
So again, what is your share mode? You should be just sharing PowerPoint.
And now, okay, so you have this view and this view, and you have this view. Okay, so let's close all of this.
Yeah,
Let's share this. And you okay.
Yeah, no, it's
All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
Do you want to just start? Do you want me to introduce you? What do you want to do?
I can start. Give me just a second till I'm gonna use this.
Do you want to go hand?
Yeah, that way it'll give me like something to do with my hands. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you have the clicker?
Give it a try. Just make sure it advances.
Okay, it's working.
All right. Cool.
And then how do I go back?
I think you are good to go.
Thank you guys so much.
Rolling. And the alarm will go off at 3:05. So
Um,
again, that's just if you want to preserve your 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. Oh wait. These notes are so small I can't read them. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I could. Oh, this is a very small audience. Boop, boop, boop. Well, okay. Just thinking for a second. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Bell. I work for a company called Qualitest. We're an organization of about 7,500 people globally. And I'm a client partner there. I oversee some of our strategic accounts at Qualitest. I've been in the organization for 6.5 years. It's been an amazing journey. Today, I'm going to talk about outsourcing as a strategy. I'll go through some of my kind of different clients that I've worked with, and we'll go through the culture that is needed to transform organizations. We'll talk about different engagement models that work and what doesn't work. A lot of times we're asked, like, what actually failed? It's great to hear good examples, but it's also really helpful to hear some of the bad examples, which I'm going to share, obviously anonymously. And yeah, I look forward to getting to chat with everybody. It's been a great few days,
And it's been awesome getting to learn from everybody. This is a really cool conference. So without further ado, I will get started. So everyone obviously knows who this is, Mr. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs' dad was Paul Jobs. And Paul Jobs was a machinist, a car salesman, and a reposition agent. He also loved carpentry and woodworking. And so for fun, Paul and Steve would go away on the weekends and build out cabinets. That was one of the things that Paul and Steve loved to do together. Obviously, Paul really helped Steve with all of his intellect, his drive for knowledge about, he loved electronics, mechanics. Paul used to go out and buy cars and then sell them for parts, which is where Steve learned a lot of his kind of cost optimization and drive. So they would go and build cabinets, and this quote's kind of pretty cool, but essentially, we all know and love quality here. But it's not just about what you see on the front of the cabinet. So Paul would build cabinets, and every single piece of wood was made from total quality. So even the back of the cabinet would have the same amount of kind of nice wood and infrastructure and architecture and woodworking that the front of the cabinet would. So with that, that's kind of how the foundation of, tech was established. Obviously, we all, admire Steve Jobs. We all have his technology in our pockets. I do right now. So this is kind of where that came from. Sometimes people not here think of quality as a blocker. It can actually be a force multiplier. When people talk about quality as red tape or a cost center, we know that we need to change the narrative because it can be a force multiplier. So today I will talk about quality, the operating model, and the culture that is needed to change. So when I first came into this industry, it was kind of new to me. Prior to this, my previous life, I was in the wine industry. I started off doing sales. I managed the western half of the US. I eventually started and sold a company in Asia, which was pretty cool. And then I got to work for a point of sale SaaS-based solution. And then I got to work for a business process automation integrations company. But when I came into this, testing, outsourcing, QA, QE, DE were all quite new to me. When I started, a lot of the different account managers would actually come with me to different client visits. Everyone was so nice and so helpful. My clients would allow me to stand in their daily Scrum stand-ups, the different planning sessions, and everybody would meet with me one-on-one, which is so nice. And that's true today. I think any of us can go to anyone in our organization, or if you hear somebody on a panel, or if you go to their presentation and you ask them for a one-on-one, people will do that. I can say, coming from different industries, that that's not the same in every industry. This industry is filled with really nice, great people. When I started my MBA, one of the first classes I took was taught by this professor, Michelle Dugood. And she was brilliant. She said something that stuck with me is we judge other people by their actions and ourselves by our intent. And why that's interesting is because when you know your intent, you can always give yourself the benefit of the doubt. But you don't do that to everyone else. You judge them by their actions. So I always like to question what people's intent is. And in this industry and everyone I work with, it's pure. It's quality. That's it. People just want to do the best work. And everybody here is willing to learn, willing to teach, and most importantly, wanting to excel. So we're all in this together. Fast forward today, where we're all like drinking from a fire hose with AI. Everybody's asking questions. What's going to happen with our jobs? What's going to happen with our team's jobs? What is the future going to hold? What tools should we be learning or using? What technology should we be upskilling on? And here we are, we're all in this together. So it's kind of an exciting time. Everybody here knows the difference between quality and testing. Quality is a career. Testing is a function. And everybody here kind of knows the importance of it. So I am terrified of heights. It's hard to actually look at this slide. I don't know who this psychopath is wanting to do that and why they're willing to risk their life, but I think it's kind of an interesting slide. But you know who else is afraid of heights? The Samsung Galaxy 7. So this is a phone. If You guys don't know the story of this phone. This is why we get questioned like, what's in your carry-on? What's in your check bag? This phone was actually, burning up and even exploding a little bit on planes. You know why? Because they were only testing at the ground level, literally. They weren't testing in elevation or altitude. And so in our world, we don't want to be a Samsung Galaxy 7. It's not an option. Quality is foundational. So I am going to tell a story of one of my clients that I've worked with for the last 4 years. So when I started with, so I've been at Qualitas for 6.5 years. And when we started with this client, this was when I started 4 years ago with them. They'd already been a client for about 10 years. And as you see, we were predominantly doing like QA work and QE work. And the CIO said, if you guys don't change your services and skill sets, you're going to kind of be out. We're kind of changing and evolving. So either join us and do something different, or this will be the end of our partnership. And that's when they assigned me to the client. So I was like, okay, this is going to be a lot of fun. So I've got essentially 3 months to prove myself and our organization out. So I don't know if you guys remember what Log4j is, but about 4 years ago, there was an outage that was hacked, and the hackers put in malicious code. And so this is the job of virtual machines where, developers would kind of store their code. And this is how coders were kind of debugging. And so with this client, it took 4 months for them to resolve the issue. That's a long time. So he said to us, like, that's unacceptable. At this time, the organization had about 4 releases a year, and each one took 5 to 6 hours. So they said, okay, great, fix it. And when we look at an organization, you kind of like see like what the breakup of, the adoption criteria is, and you would look at it and say about 20% of our clients have a group of people who are early adopters. These are the people who are like so eager to get started. There's new technology, like sign me up. Then you have the 60%, the next 60%, which is the kind of wait and follow and see. So once they see the early adopters, evolve and try something out, then the rest will join. And then you have the last 20%, and these are kind of your late or never adopters. So we said, like, to be fair, we're going to start with one team from the early adopters and one team from the people who follow the early adopters. And then we're like, we'll deal with the later adopters or never adopters afterwards. Because sometimes it works. Sometimes you can have people who, like, if the technology is not going to change, then you can kind of like keep the team, or this is where you might need to upskill or optimize. So we started with the 2 teams. The goal, though, by the way, there were 95 teams that needed to be going through the whole DevOps transformation, which is significant. This is a publicly traded large client. So we started with the 2 teams with our shift left strategy, where we have like, anywhere from BAs writing code to developers deploying in production. So with our shift left strategy, we kind of looked at it in 6 dimensions. We looked at it from resource enablement, developer enablement, continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous testing, and release optimization. The way we worked with it were we looked at all the different kind of teams. We have the agile pods that we worked with, the BAs, the developers, and the testers. And at this time, if you look at kind of the team structure, so I'm going to go back one slide. So we have mostly right now, our team was made up of predominantly QA and QE. This is when we started with our DevSecOps team. And so we started kind of bringing in some different skill sets. And in a little bit, I'm going to get into like the culture, but I think what's important here is throughout this whole journey with our client, they didn't have any sort of massive firing. There were no like layoffs or anything. They didn't say, cool, we're transforming, we're going to clean house, because that really makes it a very stressful culture for everyone to work in. When somebody's thinking, okay, great, there's a new technology, 20% of us are going to get fired. It's scary. Nobody wants to do that. It kind of makes everyone start operating out of fear. So they really kept most of their team intact. Where they supplemented and partnered is with us for us to upskill their team. So we started bringing in some of our DevOps team. So we had some of the, we kind of taught the Bs to start writing the acceptance criteria. And then the BAs would formalize the acceptance criteria with the developers and testers. We got the developers enabled on TDD practices, writing the unit test cases, implementing branching strategies. We have the CI, we were enabling the dev teams on creating CI pipelines. We had them create quality gates. We started having them, integrate security scans. We wanted to make sure that when any sort of code was changed, that it would still kick off in the CI run. And so on and so forth. So during this whole time, with all the different kind of optimization and different ways of working, the whole team kind of stayed intact. And so I think that this is it was a really great way of working. So we started adding in the DE team, the Agile teams, and from where we were, so it was predominantly QA. And a little bit of some SDET, some DevOps, some developers, and then the QA count kind of went down a little bit, and SDETs went up, DevSecOps went up, and then digital transformation went up. This is over the last 4 years. And so then we continued to evolve. So from when we started, we had 4 releases a year, each one taking 5 to 6 hours. Fast forward to about a year ago when we finished most of the DevOps transformation, we had 48 releases a year. So we went from 4 to 48 in 3 years, which is pretty impressive. We started having releases happen in under 32 minutes. We had 85% Agile adoption across this really large organization. We had, 80% unit test coverage, 50% of reduction in static security vulnerabilities. The changes were really impressive. And so this helped everybody release better products. The quality was, better. The products were better. Everything was faster. And now there's a bunch of self-enabled services and products. This is what happens when you have a well-orchestrated quality function. It can really change. I think when people think of it as just functional, it really can be foundational and transformative. It was also interesting to see how everyone's skill set evolved. The way we've seen kind of a lot of the changes happen over the last 6 years, you see somebody who used to be the director of QA is now overseeing the DevOps transformation. So everyone's kind of evolving. This organization is pretty amazing and transformative. So this was an example of how it can go well. And then so as everything kind of continued, now we're doing SAP, we're doing data, we're helping with their lift and shift. They're also moving everything into the cloud. And so we're helping with that as well. This company is constantly innovating. They're amazing to work with. So this is an example of how it can go well. How we see it go badly, a few different kind of red flags. I think when you have somebody who says, hey, we're going to do this from the bottom up. We're going to start small. This one team is going to, figure out how we're going to do this kind of change. And you don't have a C-suite buy-in. This is when it starts to, that it's not funded. That they actually aren't really going to measure or support or make this happen throughout the organization. And that's a little bit of a red flag. When you do have somebody say it's top down and kind of supported throughout the organization, that's when it goes well. So if you have the CIO or the CTO or the CDO kind of say these are some of the initiatives and the transformation that are going to happen, then it's gonna go well. Another one that's a one to watch out for, if somebody says we're a large publicly traded organization and we want 100% automation across the organization, and we're going to give you a budget of 1 offshore resource to be able to do this for the organization, that's obviously gonna fail. And it's everybody's fault for having this happen. We should have pushed back. We should have said this is really not going to transform the organization. This is going to set us up for failure and you up for failure. But this is a good time when somebody is asking for something that is just so massive or 100% of anything, that's time to kind of put your foot down. And with any sort of, quality, DevOps transformation in general, it's all about communication. So I think this is another one. There's a lot of other times where we've seen initiatives fail, but these are some of the red flags that kind of stick out. So why strategic alliances matter. because my topic is outsourcing as a strategy. That's an example of how it can go well, and a few examples of how it doesn't go well. Maybe afterwards, you guys can share some of where you see some of this fail. So so we've covered the operating model from it works well when it's a top-down mandate. But this is how you can use strategic alliances to kind of turbocharge your transformation or partnership. When people ask, what should I outsource? Like, where should I start? It's about assessing what's core versus context. When it's core, this is what differentiates you from the rest of your competitors and the other kind of industry leaders. So, like, for example, Netflix's algorithm is core to them. Context is everything you need to run your business. So this could be payroll, logistics, warehousing, accounting. So unless you're ADP or an accounting firm, these are things you would want to outsource. Where if it's core, you need to be able to own all this and really understand how it works. You can still give some of the work to a partner, but it should be kind of probably more a staff aug model versus, hiring and completely outsourcing this. When you are looking at engaging with a partner, you want to figure out what is the desired outcome and making sure that you're both aligned. So it's really about figuring out what is core versus context. Some of the things, obviously, I think we're all in IT here. I'm assuming. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure most people are in quality and IT. But here's some of the other areas that are commonly outsourced. Mostly it's IT, but there's also accounting and finance, call centers, administrative assistants, logistics, legal services, payroll, obviously software development and HR. But anything that's core to you should look at doing yourself. So unless you're FedEx, UPS, or ADP, you're going to probably outsource a lot of those other areas because there's no advantage to doing it yourself. This is how the partnership equation works well. It's about trust, value, and alignment. So, quality is a mindset. It's not about testing. So you want to figure out there's a few different models to work. You could do in-house. You could have a multi-partner equation, or you could have single. And each one has their benefits and downsides. So you first want to choose a partner who builds your capability, not just fill a headcount. I think sometimes when I get to work with some of my competitors and they're just really trying to fill it with bodies and just not really looking at what the greater outcome is, I always like to figure out, okay, what are your MBOs? I like to ask all my different stakeholders, and I have about 22 stakeholders I work with every single week. And every quarter we go through whatever their MBOs are, and to make sure that we're aligned. Because if our partner looks good, we look good. It's a win-win-win all around. But so you want to make sure that your partner is aligned in what the overall outcome is and hold them accountable. So that way, if anything does go wrong, you can maybe sometimes get additional support and they'll do whatever it takes. You want transparency, traceability, and trust in delivery. I think this is some of the most important parts in a partnership, in any partnership, work-wise or with your friends or with everybody else. Well, I went a lot slower than I thought. Okay, so we'll go through, this is some of the different models that you can look for. There's the federated, dev-led, and DevOps. So even in the last 6 years since I've been working here, everything has kind of changed. The way we deliver quality has changed. We used to have the centralized model, the federated model, the integrated with dev teams, quality engineering, DevOps focus. And as we look forward to AI, a lot of this is going to change. I'm going to leave the slide. We can talk about it later, but there are some areas that work well for people, and there are some pitfalls and some positives. So, this is some of the areas that we see what works well. So there's the, first one, which is staff aug and just kind of providing, bodies and resources. And again, this can have its benefits. Then you have the co-sourcing where you kind of, do it together jointly. There's output-based, and this can work well. But for example, if you're hey, I want to see 2 scripts, per day, and you can do it in one, you're going to be measured by the wrong thing. And so you could have one script, but your partner is going to be incentivized to do two. So that might not always work. And then there's like the pinnacle, which is a strategic partnership, which is, filled with lots of communication and trust. And yeah, you kind of takes a few years to build, but then everybody does their best work. One example of why outsourcing is a great idea is with SAP. Right now, so SAP runs 70% of the world's transactions. It's obviously a huge organization. I know everyone here knows SAP. With the S/4HANA update that needs to happen, that's mandatory, they pushed it out to 2027, to December 31st, 2027. And right now, we're hearing rumors that they're actually going to push it out to 2030 because there's not enough people in the world to help with this. So I think there are 30 to 40,000 people short right now. In Europe alone, by the time this needs to happen, there's going to be 100,000 people short. So if you can figure out how to work with a partner, they can and hold them accountable. They're going to get it done, whatever it takes. So SAP is one example. Another good one is if you have to do a buy versus build assessment. That's really great because your partner will have done a lot of buy implementations, build implementations, and they can kind of assess everything in the right way. And so that would work. Tool assessments is another one because usually somebody like us will have worked with all the different tools out there. We're tool agnostic. And so you can figure out, kind of what tools to do. And it's something that they are often going to do for free. But I didn't say that. So, but yeah, so that's tool assessments and buy versus build. To the last part for the culture part, I think what goes well is, when you do, instead of having to like rip and replace and just kind of like, fire a huge group of people, you upskill. And so when you have a culture that everyone does their best work, this is going to go a lot better. So I like this expression, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have the best strategies and the best intent, but if your culture doesn't like help enable and allow it, it won't really go very well. And then the last thing is this skill will matrix, which I really like to see because you kind of have to figure out how to like assess your team. And so obviously everyone wants somebody who's high will, high skill, right? That's like the most desired, person. And these are the people that you can just delegate to and let them run freely and also have them probably oversee people in the organization to get to whatever your desired outcome is. The next best, believe it or not, is high will, low skill. Because these people have motivation. These people are going to learn. These people are eager, and they have a great attitude that's going to be good for the company culture. The next best is low skill, high skill, low will. You have to figure out how to motivate these people, but at least they have, kind of something that the rest of the organization wants. And the last is low will, low skill. You don't just get rid of these people. You figure out, how do you motivate them? How do you upskill them and incorporate them into the rest of the organization? Oh, and I was going to say some of the things that you can work on is like different like certifications. We do brown bag sessions where we figure out, anything that anybody wants to learn, have somebody lead it and upskill and train. And we do this for the clients as well. And then, just figure out like how to push, different certifications. Like right now, OCI is offering free certifications up until October 31st, which is exciting. Anybody can go get them. I mean, and you should kind of figure out like where can you go get these free certifications that are gonna help you in your career. So we want to focus on quality outcomes for everyone. I think if everyone has a good intent for the whole organization, we'll all do better. You want an operating model that can work for everybody, whether it's, kind of staff aug, strategic partnership, federated, whatever it is, you figure out what operating model works. And then what the right company culture is. If sometimes our clients actually do want to change their company culture and we can help with that. And then sometimes they love where they're at and they want us to figure out how to evolve to them. One thing we like to do is, we'll look at our clients' values and kind of like, core transformation. Yep, sorry, time. Yep. And so we figure out how to adopt to that. And so in this world, we don't want to be a Galaxy 7. We want to be beautiful cabinets. And so, I think when you look at quality as foundational, you can end up with a beautiful piece of work at the end. And that's it. I'm on time.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, open season. Questions, comments, cards. 3, 2, 1. Let's see them. No questions? You were so awesome that they have nothing to say. Going once? Oh, here we go.
So we have some offshore resources on retainer, and the problem that we've found is when we gave teams responsibility for work, they tended to assign the toil and maybe the not really well thought through regression type tasks. And so we've had a hard time convincing them that it's worth their time to continue providing more context to make to get more value, because they kind of feel like they're protecting that for themselves. Maybe I don't know. What if you have some thoughts about how to help QEs who are working next to offshore people understand upside and yeah, I know maybe not feel threatened, but be willing to invest in that kind of success.
Is this so you have a partner that you're working with, and your team that you're talking about is onshore, right? And they're having a challenge motivating and working with the team offshore.
No. The challenge we're having is getting our onshore team to give the interesting work and the necessary context to do that interesting work to the offshore team. What we're seeing is, oh, well, they can just run these regression suites for us, and then we don't have to do that. And so they're pushing the work they don't want to do, or what they perceive to be the lowest value work in that direction. And I was wondering if you had any ideas about how to rebalance that a bit.
Well, I think who's ever, leading that team has to figure out how to kind of structure the work fairly and also be motivated by teaching people and, upskilling and making everybody feel part of one team. I think what I love with some of our clients is when you can't tell like who is a vendor or partner and who is part of the organization. Everybody should really feel like one team. And so, yeah, sometimes, I see it where we get stuck with work that isn't that exciting. And the problem is that people get unmotivated and they don't deliver their best work. So I think if everybody can be incentivized by what the outcome is and be part of one team, it'll go better. But I have another client where like they're literally kind of isolated from everything. They don't even know when the releases are. Like they don't know anything. They're just kind of doing this work and they don't get to see what everyone else is doing. And we're going to start losing some of these people. It just is what it is. You want to focus on attrition. And I think figuring out kind of like metrics on ways to get the team to stay and upskill, you just have to figure out how to get everyone to work together. But it is a tough one. We do see that as well.
Okay, same thread.
Yeah, kind of a tangent to that. We work with an offshore or a few offshore teams on our product. They tend to do a lot of the more repetitive automation tasks and things, and we've had some mixed success in giving them more interesting tasks. I think because and the times we've given them the more interesting tasks, they don't really understand our product. They understand. I'll just give an example of a testing tool, Selenium. They know Selenium very well. They can use it very well, but they don't understand our product, and so they can't really build a test to test the thing that we need them to do. And so it ends up putting more work on us when we try to give them those more interesting things. And so I don't know if you've ever come across that in your work with your clients of lack of understanding their work, and so that kind of pushed more work on them.
I mean, so we do see that as well. And I don't know what your model looks like, but like for us, we will have whoever our, main kind of partner is, and then like an account manager, client partner, which is what I am, and a delivery manager. And then we're involved in all these discussions. And then it's our responsibility. So if you're having a challenge and the work falls on you, that's actually not that great. I would think that that's not like the most strategic partnership, because if you're needing to upskill and teach and motivate your offshore partner, then I do wonder what the partner, I don't know who it is. So I'm not, there's room for improvement on I think the partner side. I never want to say, competition is good. And I'm sure there's a lot of great people you're working with as well. Yes.
Okay, new thread.
Well, it's almost a new thread. It's kind of similar. So if I'm if I'm a provider of offshore testing services, I mean, when I got into testing, I learned that you cannot be perceived as a bottleneck, and you, even more importantly, don't want to be perceived as a adversary to the development team, right? You want to be on the team. You're helping them provide better quality. So if I'm an external member of that team, though, or if I'm an offshore provider, how do I make sure that I'm not perceived as an adversary or a bottleneck? What kind of communication would you recommend for them when they come in?
I think this is where you really have to focus on like shifting left and having the communication early on. And this is where I think, any of the DevSecOps transformation does help. So you have all the different teams communicating in the beginning. I don't know, if you're waterfall or agile, but I think if everybody's, involved in the beginning, and if you do have a bottleneck, especially your partner has a bottleneck, they need to figure out what that bottleneck is, identify it ahead of time, and figure out how to get ahead of that. I think when we're looked at as red tape or bottlenecks, or again, a cost center, this is when we're failing, and we really need to figure out how to change the narrative. This is where, when you do have a partner, like, go to them early on and say, like, hey, I really need help with this. This is something that we really need to change. Otherwise, our funding is going to get cut, and your funding is going to get cut. And so I think when you do have like that kind of transparency and honesty with people, they do want to help. Somebody did tell me once that once you get somebody to like help you and you ask for help, they kind of feel responsible for you, like something shifts in their mind. And so when you do that, they'll do whatever it takes. I do think just communication, asking for maybe additional investment or anything, just something to figure out how to change that narrative early on. That would be my take.
Okay, new thread.
So how do you handle the situation in which you've handed off the development and testing and other parts of the development, and they use testing as an entry point for development? So what we get in terms of testers is newbies. We're educating people all the time, and the work they're doing is amateurish, but once they learn their product, they're moved in. So how do you deal with something like that?
So just so I understand that, I'm going to try to repeat this. So maybe if the mic can stay nearby, Doug, just in case. So you're saying that right now, if you hand off development and testing, which is also interesting. I think you don't really like, as a client, you don't like hand it off and say, okay, like, not my problem anymore. You just kind of say, okay, we're going to keep partnering the whole time because it's also my job. But you want them to be able to kind of make sure that the outcome, you're engaging with them for the outcome. So then if you're going to work with, and then you're getting junior level testers who you have to train and upskill?
Yes, except they're doing the training of their new people. So we're not involved in bringing it up. The organization that had this problem, when I walked in, they'd been doing it for a year and wondering why bugs weren't being found until they were delivered to us.
My first reaction is like, no wonder why we, kind of get to come in and partner with more and more clients, because oopsies. Okay. It seems weird to put your junior level testers or something like in any sort of client engagement. You have to do something that makes sense, where you would have one of your architect level testers, kind of an architect level person, senior people, and then you have, depending on the operating model, we a lot of times will do like a 70-30 model, 70% global, depending on how much coverage time-wise they need, and then 30% onshore. And so you have somebody onshore who's really responsible for communicating with the whole offshore team and making sure the time works out well. And then, that partner needs to figure out how to deliver the outcome. If they're going to put junior level people on it, then they need to have somebody senior who's going to be responsible for delivering all the work. And there should also be a delivery manager involved, making sure we deliver it. And then also you figure out how to escalate. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then I would escalate. That would be, I don't know if that answered your question, Doug.
It does. My solution, by the way, was to fire them.
Oh.
At least the test part.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say that because it seems for me, since I work for qual test, that seems I shouldn't say that. So yes. I really do think I do think everybody in this industry means well. I do. Obviously, people have to, figure out how they want to grow and scale. But at the end of the day, we're in this because we all love quality. And so if you go to somebody in that organization who's more senior and you say, look, we're not achieving what I need to do, what my MBOs are, what the organization is going towards, like, we're going to fail, like, my job is at stake. Are you hear any of this? There has to be somebody in that organization who cares. Or this is when you want a multi-partner approach, like, say, fine, I'm going to bring in someone else, and I need a senior level person, and I want them to start to make the rest of that other vendor accountable, and then it'll start to create a competitiveness. I think, again, as a partner, it's kind of hard to say, like, it is nice to have a multi-partner approach, because the problem is if you just have one partner, like an SI, and they do everything, you're probably going to be small to them. And they're not going to necessarily put their best team forward indefinitely. They might put their best team forward when they go win the deal, but then they're going to put different people involved. So you want to have like a multi kind of partner provider approach, so you get the niche skill sets that you want to be able to do to kind of have that desired outcome. But then when you also have multi partners, it gives a little bit of fear. Like, sometimes, if we take too long to provide the right candidates, they're like, hey, we're going to go with this other partner. And then it instills fear and pressure in our delivery teams and our recruiting teams, and it kind of makes everyone do better. So I don't really see the problem with multi-partner.
Okay.
Any more
That
questions?
takes up our backlog. If there are any more questions, going once, going twice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.